I hit the record button.
Okay.
Hello, adventuresses, and welcome to the podcast show for women who love horses, travel, and adventure. I'm Ute, and together with my partner Heather, I'm happy to welcome you to another exciting episode. Hi, Heather. How are you today?
Hi, Ute. I'm good. How are things in almost end of monsoon season in India?
Well, you're talking to that like almost end. I thought it should have ended already, but we're still having rains and experience some problems with the internet as a result. And there's still thunderstorms hanging about. And well, it's kind of a bit of a nuisance, really. So I thought we'll be done by the time we'll record this. But in fact, it's still like there's some lightning outside. There's a bit of not really close thunder. It's more in the distance. Today we went with some friends to do a picnic, and they wanted to use the last couple of days of the monsoon to enjoy a bit of rain, a bit of drizzle, and not so hot weather. Now it wasn't raining, it wasn't drizzling. It was quite hot, actually, quite humid. But now when we came back, we saw the big towers standing up in the sky, and as I said, some distant thunder rolling and some lightning on the horizon. So yeah, still monsoon going. How are things in Canada? Are you experiencing a beautiful Indian summer, or is it autumn?
Yes, well, we're kind of halfway through September now, and we've had some nicer days. I think tomorrow is supposed to be exceptionally nice, getting close into the high 20s again. So the Farmer's Almanac is saying that we are going to have a long fall. So, we really enjoy those Indian summers when we do get them, when it extends into fall. I was laughing when you were saying the monsoon just doesn't seem to end. It's kind of like winter in Canada. So, the actual seasonality date of, or the winter or spring solstice is what, March 20th, 21st. We can still have snow in May, but it seems like we rush into winter and then it just never wants to leave. So I appreciate when you say, monsoon season's almost over. We say that here, well, winter's almost over. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be April. It's supposed to be warming up. But yes, it's very nice out today, blue sky, hardly any wind, which we have had quite a bit this summer. So hopefully we'll have a few more days where we'll be able to sit outside and enjoy, having a little campfire or roasting some hot dogs. I had shared with you and on my Facebook a couple nights ago, I was having this craving for like a roasted marshmallow. So mm-hmm. I went out to our fire pit outside, and I lit a little fire and sat out there and waited for the coals to be that, perfect size to roast a marshmallow so it wouldn't catch on fire, and it was very nice. Mm. So what is our topic today?
I mean, as you all know, because we posted about it in the Facebook group, last week was the 10th International Helmet Awareness Day, last weekend, actually. It's apparently always one weekend in September because the dates keep on changing. So, so we are talking a little bit about helmets today and about why should horse riders wear helmets and, how a good fit, how can you see whether your helmet fits well, how often should you replace the helmet. So a little bit tidbits of knowledge about helmets and surrounding helmets. And of course, we talk a little bit about our own experience. And so today is all about helmets. So starting it off, as I said, it was 10th International Helmet Awareness Day, or was it 11th? I think 11th International Helmet Awareness Day last Saturday, Sunday. And so how that came to be, I mean, there's one day for every crazy thing. There's International Groundhog Day and International Donut Day and International God knows what day. So of course there's also an International Helmet Awareness Day. Now, how it was founded actually by Lindsay White in 2010. as a way of trying to educate riders on the importance of wearing helmets and also when to replace them and all, as I said, all this knowledge surrounding helmets. Lindsay has founded her own NGO, the Riders for Helmets, after US Olympic dressage rider Courtney King Dye had a riding accident. So she was basically schooling a horse. So, you know, like we all say, oh, we don't do major work, we just sit a little bit on the horse, school it a bit in the arena or on a kind of riding space, you know, nothing major, not going outside, not doing any crazy canters. So she just went to school the horse when it tripped and threw it off. And by really bad luck, she landed underneath her horse and she did not wear a helmet and she had a very severe head injury and landed in coma for 4 weeks. So this very tragic accident, as I said, she didn't compete in eventing, she didn't go for a difficult show jumping course. It was just schooling a horse she knew very well. So it was just a really bad accident. And still this happened to her. So this kind of opened Lindsay's eyes to say, hey guys, you know, you should wear helmets all the time. Whether you school your horse, whether you ride just out for a little pleasure round, just for 10 minutes, just for 15 minutes. You know, all these excuses we say, oh, come on, it's just 5 minutes round. I'll just go ride one round around the stable. So it will be just a little bit, we'll be just walking. I don't need to wear a helmet and stuff. So, but still in these 5 minutes, something like this can happen. A stupid accident, the horse can trip over its own feet. It can get frightened because of a bird flying out of a bush or whatever, you know, it can be very, very stupid. You can fall off and the horse might actually trip and fall on top of you and might fall on your head. So nobody can actually prevent that 100%. These things happen. And well, that was the reason how this NGO was started, Riders for Helmets, and how they eventually started with went off for their International Helmet Awareness Day, which is always in September. International Helmet Awareness Day is basically, usually on these days, many of the manufacturers or many riding shops actually give you some discounts for helmets. Sometimes they give you some helmet services, or there's some person in the shop who might give you some tips or tricks about how to choose your helmet, how to check is your helmet still up to date, should you maybe change it, how often should you change the helmet, and so on and so on. So it is actually quite a good thing to have this helmet awareness day. You can also profit from it. And yeah, for all the group's mission and all, you can check out their website, www.ridersforhelmets.com. So to see all the kind of all the programs they do on that day. I mean, for next year, basically. But you can also find lots of interesting information. A lot of that we will kind of introduce you to today, and we'll talk a little bit about the general things you should know about helmets. So Heather, you have looked a little bit into how to fit a helmet and when should it be replaced. So why don't we talk about that first?
Right. So there is so much information available on helmets on the internet. But I was able to kind of put a list together of some common things. And sometimes it's, you know, it's those common regular things that we forget about that, you know, it looks fine. So for example, if you were to have a hard impact blow while wearing your helmet, you should replace it immediately. There may be damage to the helmet that you can't see, but it's still there. So really anytime you have a hard impact, that helmet should be replaced. Hat or helmet manufacturers generally recommend replacing the helmet every 4 to 5 years. You know, the helmets take a beating over the years from sweat, heat, dust, rain. The styrofoam that's in the helmets, you know, does over time start to break down, and it will lose the ability to protect your head over the course of time. So replacing it sooner than later is a good idea. Coming with fitting, now we will post in the show notes one of this helmet manufacturers, Troxel, does give a full breakdown on all the ins and outs of everything, how to measure from ear to ear, around the, you know, the base of your forehead, But one thing to really take into consideration it is your hairstyle. So for example, both Uta and I have long hair. So when we're getting ready to go for a ride, we may have our hair in a ponytail, we may have our hair in a braid, bun. All of those different hairstyles will change the fit of your helmet. Even a simple braid, if you have it in a traditional braid versus a Dutch braid, that's going to change how your helmet fits. So when you're going to the tack shops and you're trying on a variety of different helmets, keep that in mind. Maybe you're going to have to go back a different day with your hair down or up, just to get an idea of what fits best. If you're purchasing your helmet online, check the manufacturer date. Purchasing a used helmet can be very risky because you like we said before, the helmet could have had an impact that you can't see, but there's internal cracks, those sort of things. I probably discourage from purchasing a used helmet. Wearing your helmet ultimately every ride is so crucial, because like Uta had mentioned before, even coming off a horse that you ride every day that has never took a side step, but just happened to stumble, even falling off a standing still horse. I have a prime example. I was riding my son's horse and my saddle wasn't tight enough. And I had leaned to one side to kind of shift my saddle over. Well, over I went, horse didn't even move, and I hit the ground. Now, hurt my pride more than anything, and I was fortunate that I wasn't hurt worse, but the horse wasn't moving. We were simply standing there, and I just shifted my weight to fix my saddle, and my saddle slipped, and over I went. A fall, anytime you come off your horse, could have catastrophic results. An injury that if you can prevent by wearing a helmet, that will, that's just what, you get in your car and you put your seatbelt on. So remember to put your helmet on. I did find a stat: 20% of accidents which result in a head injury happen while the person's on the ground. So getting kicked, you're cleaning their feet, they kick out at a fly, or maybe even at you. Some, we all don't have perfectly well-mannered horses. So keep that in mind. You don't necessarily have to be on the horse to end up with a head injury from your horse. And really, it's best to invest in your own helmet, regardless of whether you own your own horse. It's always handy to have one when you go on your horse safaris, your trail rides, because you just never know how a borrowed one will fit in the event of just sizing and those kind of things. And your helmet will be designed to fit your head. When you're purchasing it, you're going to make sure that, it's the right feel, the right, how the chin strap does up versus how it, if you can tighten it at the back, all those kind of things. So I really encourage you to have your own helmet and make sure that it fits correctly. Now, Uta, there are lots of other types of helmets. Which ones should we not use when we're riding?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have helmets for almost all kinds of sports. There's bicycle helmets and climbing helmets, and usually every helmet is certified for certain sports. So parents who think like, okay, fine, my kid has a bicycle helmet, he can use that on horseback too. No, that's really absolute no-go, because the problem really with bicycle helmets is they were not meant to falls from horses. Now, the problem is if you fall off a horse, it's usually you're a bit higher up from the ground than on your bicycle, and the riding helmet usually has a different fit as well. So if you look at a bicycle helmet, it usually does not cover the sides of your head, but just a bit the back and the top, because most falls from bicycles are usually falls forward, not backward. While when you're falling off the horse, quite often it's a fall backward as well. So yeah, bicycle helmets are not suitable for riding. So as well, each helmet is tested because most of the helmets, they have a certain standard. So each helmet has been tested for what kind of what kind of sports you want to do with it. So a bicycle helmet has been tested for falls from the bicycle. A riding helmet has been tested for falls from a horse. So as I said, horse falls usually are higher up than on the bicycles. Very often when you ride with your horse, you're out on more rough trails than you're with a bike. I mean, okay, granted, when you go on mountain bike, you also have rough trails. And additionally, as you were already mentioning, a lot of the injuries happen when you're on the ground. So they result from the horse's hoof. That also happens if you fall and the horse runs over you. You have a very high chance that it kicks you on the head. So that's, again, the riding helmet is much harder than the bicycle helmet to withstand these kicks from a horse's hoof, including a shoe, which is metal. So the bicycle helmet is not designed for that. So if you fall off the horse with a bicycle helmet on and the horse might run over you, or it might be another horse runs over you, the bicycle helmet does not give you psychic protection. I mean, saying all this, of course, the helmet is a precaution. It can never 100% prevent injury. Even I know of many accidents, people who had severe head injuries even while wearing helmets, and not only in riding. The best example is Michael Schumacher, who had the skiing accident and who ended up in coma, and well, it's a very tragic fate. And he was wearing a helmet. And that guy was in race cars all his life and ended his career without really any, but at least without injuring limb and body of his. And then after retirement, he went on skiing, downhill skiing, and he had a skiing accident while doing his hobby and sustained severe head injuries. So a head is always, a helmet always prevents some injuries, but it's never a guarantee that you will not sustain any injuries. But it does help in many, many cases. And as I said, like each helmet, just check when you buy a helmet that has been certified for the kind of sports you want to do. There's a few multiple sports helmets. Like I have one which is certified for both climbing as well as riding. But as I said, make sure that whatever activity you do, your helmet is certified for that, because it's just the impacts are different. The kind of injuries you are most likely to sustain are different. And bicycle helmets should definitely not be used by horse riders.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting when you think about it. Like you wouldn't, you know, my boys play hockey. Well, they wouldn't even think about going on the ice without putting their helmet on. So when they go riding, you know, the helmet is just part of the equipment that goes along with riding. Whether, you know, you got your helmet, you got your bridle, you got your saddle, you know, those are the things that you just need to have. Now, you mentioned certification. So I did find some information on that. So helmet certification is, so the equestrian helmet is certified through the Safety Equipment Institute, so the SEI, and it's an organization that certifies protective equipment in a variety of industries. Then there's the ASTM International, which was formerly known as the American Society for Testing and Materials, so ASTM. And it's one of the world's most respected standard organizations that standardizes things. And I did also find that the ASTM or the SEI certification is compatible with all European safety standards. Now, I did bring in my helmet. I don't know how well this will show up on the video, but the certification inside the helmet is, I don't know if you can see this, but if you pull back kind of the little padding that goes around the outside, there is a little sticker in it that says SEI certified model, and then ASTM, and then a number. So if you're wanting to check your personal helmet, you will be able to see that there should be a sticker in it that indicates that it's been certified by the SEI, which again is the Safety Equipment Institute, and then the ASTM, which is the American Society for Testing and Materials. One other little interesting fact while I was pulling my helmet apart here to check all of these certifications. I did see my helmet was made in 2007. So I guess it's time for me to get a new helmet, considering that it's 13 years old. Now, to look at it, you would think it's brand new. You know, I've taken good care of it. I've always, you know, kept it in a helmet bag and those sort of things. But yeah, it is definitely time for a new one. You will find at some places that you do go on riding treks, riding safaris, they are going to check inside your helmet to see if you do have that SEI certification to make sure that your helmet is a proper equestrian helmet. Just a quick something else about helmets. I know that lots of people are like, well, they're not very stylish and those kind of things. Well, you know, they have really upped their game. The different, you know, there's Troxel, there's Tipperary, there's so many different companies make them. But you can get now fancy sparkly covers for them. They do make a cowboy hat style one. So really there is lots of opportunity to pretty up your helmet, and no longer are they just the black velvet caps that the old English riders used to ride when they were jumping. So I did come across one little funny posting about helmets and the 10 bad reasons not to wear a helmet on horseback. So, you know, there's always many excuses for not wearing a helmet when you ride, but there really is no good reason. The quietest, most well-trained horses can cause injury if startled or hurt. Ask anyone who's accidentally ridden over a nest on the ground of wasps or was riding calmly along and a car backfired. A helmet will not make you invincible. It might make you invisible if you are dead, but it'll help protect the one part of your body that is the hardest to fix, your brain. So avoid using these excuses and wear an American Society for Testing Material, ASTM, approved riding helmet every time you ride. So the first one is, are you really willing to take that risk of not wearing one? You know, points will get deducted from me in the show ring, which is ridiculous because the regulations within lots of different horse societies and horse groups are making it mandatory. Most youth have to wear one all the time now. So no, you are not going to lose points if you wear one in the show ring. You know how to safely get off your horse, so you don't need a helmet. Okay, well, we all know sometimes our dismount isn't voluntary. Sometimes we're involuntary dismounted. Helmets cause headaches. If your helmet fits properly, this won't be the case. If you're finding that your head, you know, maybe have to take a few more rests and take it off if you're finding it hot or something, you know, because we do live in climates that can be hotter. I'm going to get helmet head. Well, you know, you can put a ball cap on after you ride so your hair isn't messy, but I think your brain is more important than having helmet hair. Well, I'm an experienced rider. I don't need to wear a helmet. As time has shown us, even the most experienced riders do have wrecks where they do come off. And again, you know, there's been some pretty terrible stories come out where people had a head injury for not wearing a helmet and have lost their lives, or had a traumatic brain injury that they've never recovered from. Well, helmets are just uncomfortable. Well, yes, but you know, women wear bras every day and they're not very comfortable sometimes, and we still wear them. So put your helmet on. Helmets are ugly. Well, we already talked about that. You can put a sparkly cover on it. You can buy a solid black one. They come in any color you can think of: shiny, matte, leather, material. They come in everything. Helmets are expensive. Yes, they can be expensive. However, your life is valuable. So, you know, you have to invest in yourself. And those were some funny little things that I found reasons not to wear a helmet. Now, Uta, you have a horse safari at your place. What are some excuses people give you for not wanting to wear a helmet?
Well, first of all, we don't have, it's not mandatory at our place to wear a helmet because we are mostly dealing with grown-up people. Children, yes, I make it mandatory for children, but I'm not making it mandatory for adults. Because I always say everyone rides on their own risk. And even though I always say I recommend wearing a helmet, I'm not their mothers or their whatever. So for me, it's a little bit a dilemma. I mean, nowadays people mostly wear helmets. I would say on my safaris today, 85% of people bring their own helmets and wear them. So the problem is diminishing, really. Like when we started, it was about 50-50. 50% of the people were wearing helmets, 50% not. Today, it's really just the one or the other odd ones, even though I noticed it's a little bit, it depends indeed on nationality. So for instance, I had a French group last year and none of them wore a helmet. They all wear with hats or caps or whatever. Not a single one was wearing a helmet. So apparently French people do not wear helmets that often. I can't really, I don't have that many comparative data that I say it's always the French, but that stuck. That really, that was an example where I thought, oh, okay, indeed. While Germans, British, Canadians, Americans, then I have some, well, mostly say Central Europeans, they usually, as I say, 85% of the people bring their own helmets. Sometimes people ask me if I provide helmets. We do have helmets here, so I provide helmets for even for those people who do not have their own helmet or who do not want to bring their own helmet. But again, it's a minority. It's like once in a while, a person kind of either asks me or kind of tells me when he's here and says, okay, I need a helmet, I don't have one, can I have one from you? And once in a while, I have people with these old, military helmets, which kind of were in use 20 years ago, the big ones, stuffy ones with a velvet cover. You still have them sometimes today, but they are very, basically when you ride in India, it's a hot country. So the most important thing I always say for me is a helmet with a good ventilation. So if I see people who do not have that, I sometimes offer them one of my riding helmets because I say, look, if you wear that one without any ventilation, you'd be very uncomfortable. So that is one of the reasons I think also today that people have a larger acceptance of helmets. I mean, people generally wear helmets more in skiing, bicycling, horse riding, that's no exception. But I think they're just, first, they're more stylish. Second, they're more comfortable. Or maybe first, they're more comfortable. Second, they're more stylish nowadays. Because you can really choose your color these days. You have lighter helmets, heavier helmets. You have helmets with a good ventilation. So there are actually no more excuses for not wearing a helmet. Like, frankly, when I was a teenager and I had my horse in Germany, and I always hated wearing a helmet. I had to do it during the lessons, but whenever I would ride out or when I knew nobody was watching when I was riding in the arena without instruction, I would always try not to wear the helmet because at that time they were just stuffy and heavy and uncomfortable, and they did give me a headache. So there were a couple of reasons, not good ones though, but you know how teenage girls can be sometimes. But today, frankly speaking, there's no more reason for not wanting to wear one. So I actually have made it a habit. I usually wear a helmet when I ride. In fact, I nowadays I ride always with a helmet because, as we've already mentioned, it's sometimes just a bit of bad luck that's sufficient. You're a good rider. You might have a really nice and easy horse, but even the nicest and easiest horse can stumble, fall down. So I don't think there's any more good excuses. Nevertheless, I think everyone, you can't convince people who do not want to wear a helmet unless maybe you give instructions and say that. I always say, okay, guys, you ride on your own risk. You're grown-up people. If you don't want to wear a helmet, okay, fine. I can recommend it. I can tell them, look, why don't you want to wear a helmet? If you need one, you can borrow one of mine or one of ours. Go ahead. But yeah, so there's a lot of people who do not there's not a lot of people anymore who do not wear helmets. Actually, it has really, throughout most nationalities, it has really become very common nowadays for people to wear helmets. And that was the same in our group, right? We posted a couple of questions about wearing helmets, and I think 100% of our responses were, yes, we are wearing helmets. We never used to wear helmets when we were young, but we had this fall, or maybe we've kind of grown more responsible or more smart. We wear a helmet. And I mean, come on, guys. We all have our smartphones, right? So what we do with a smartphone, what's the first thing I purchase for my smartphone? It's a cover, right? So we cover our phones better than we are covering our own heads. That's gross, seriously. So we should always really cover the most important thing what we have, and that's our brain. So we should always make sure that's well covered.
Yeah, you know, and funny, because predominantly women listen to this podcast. Look how long now, both hockey is big in Canada, but look how long the hockey players, they were wearing a protective cup over their, you know, crown jewels for many years before they put a helmet on their head. So, you know, time has come where, you know, covering the important parts of your body are super important. Now, I do have a few tips on how to care for your helmet. So again, like we had said, if your helmet has a fall, whether you're while you're wearing it, or if you're carrying it and it has a hard fall, it should be replaced. You may not see the crack, but the integrity of the helmet could be damaged, and you would hate for you to have a serious fall off your horse and the helmet be compromised and you be hurt. When you're carrying your helmet, you should never carry it by the strap. What happens when you do that is it over time will stretch out, and there is increased chances of the improper fit and those sort of things. So a good idea is to have get a helmet bag. Lots of the helmets will come with a bag, and the nice thing about it is you can, you know, pop your helmet back in that bag. It'll have a nice tie, and that's what you can you know, use to hang it up in your tack room, your saddle room, in your horse trailer, those kind of things. You know, trying to keep your helmet out of the elements. You know, obviously if you're riding and it's raining, it's going to get wet, but, you know, making sure that you're taking care of it, and, you know, not leaving it outside in the elements, the extreme heat, the cold, rain, those kind of things. After you're finished riding, you know, flipping it over and airing it out, making sure that, because, you know, if it's been a hot day and you've been sweating, you really want to get the airflow in there, sometimes even holding up to a fan just to help, you know, dry it out. And you can wash the liner in a lot of them. They're on Velcro. You can take it out, because there's nothing worse than a sweat, stinky helmet. Probably most important tip, do not put your whole helmet in the dishwasher. Like, it might seem like a quick and easy way to clean it, but they're not meant to be completely submerged in water. If you want to clean the outside, you know, a light soapy water with a light wipe and making sure that it's thoroughly dried, those are some good tips. So, you know, I'm sure that as, you know, we continue with COVID, they'll probably come up with like a helmet that has a mask built into it or something. So that'll be the latest thing. Now, Uta, you had mentioned, we had put this out on the Facebook page just to, you know, see what our fellow tribe members are doing. And it was interesting reading some of the comments, because I shared this, you know, that we were going to talk about this on some other horsey group sites. And it was very consistent on what people were coming back with. Yes, you know, back in the old days, before we had the knowledge of really how important helmets were, you know, we weren't wearing helmets, whereas now we are, and they are, you know, they've made them more stylish. They've made them more, you know, it's almost like trendy now, where you can get, you know, the designer ones, and people have accepted that protecting, you know, your brain is an you know, that's, you got to invest in yourself when you're riding. You buy all the protective gear for your horse. When you're trailering them, you've got the pole guard, you've got the leg bandages, you've got the trailering blanket, you've got all of these things. If there's no you, the horse won't even matter anymore. So, making sure that, you have a good helmet, ultimately that it could save your life. In most cases, it will save your life. So check out your local tack shops. Now, right around now, with it being International Helmet Awareness Day just this past weekend, lots of sales probably are still on. One thing I did come across is just because it cost more might not be a better helmet for, it's more expensive doesn't necessarily mean better. You may be able to find a economically priced one that fits you better than the fancy one. It's, just like, sometimes a Ford car might be more comfortable for you to drive than a Cadillac. So, it's still going to provide you with the protection. When you break it down, all the insides are most likely the same. It's just whether one has a vinyl cover or a leather cover. So that is something to keep in mind, that cost isn't necessarily always a better factor.
Right. So, Heather, what helmet company do you wear? Do you have a particular one which you enjoy wearing, or do you go with any helmet which kind of catches your fancy? Do you have what kind of helmet do you wear?
Well, I have the one that I have right now, which I've realized expired, is a Troxel. It has a fairly good air ventilation. I find that my head doesn't get overly hot. It has kind of like a canvasy kind of finish, as well. The base of the whole cover is a canvas, and then it does have kind of some suede kind of pattern on it to kind of pretty it up. But it does, I'm gonna just flip it around here again. It has a nice brim on it that's, it's plastic, but it does have a little bit of play to it. So, if you really wanted it to, curve a little bit, you could. I like how the straps adjust, and how it's, it has a nice, it fits good, and you can adjust it on the sides as well. I think this, and as well as at the back. Oh, so depending on, the shape of your head, the shape going, your diameter versus the, top to bottom kind of thing. Whereas my book, when we started, they had, kind of just a basic helmet. Boys tend short hair, so they didn't seem to mind. Theirs was a hard plastic kind of thing. I'm sure I probably got them on a sale, buying 3 at the same time. So, but I do know friends of mine, they just bought new ones a couple of years ago, and how the styles have changed. And this one's 13 years old now, but they're so light now. And they're really functional. The old days of the caps that you'd have had, that I just had an elastic around it. And I remember the elastic was too long, so my mom just tied a knot elastic. So around the chin, then I had this like that had been tied in a knot. And really, like, if I had a helmet, probably the elastic would have stretched and popped off if I would have come off. Fortunately, kids tend to bounce a little bit more than adults. If I fall now, I might just have to lay on the ground there. Come, because it's this old body doesn't recover as quickly as kids. Now, what type of helmet do you ride with?
I found a couple of years ago an LAS helmet, which I really like. It's an Italian company, so they make helmets for endurance riding. So I like them because they're really light. They come in different colors. So I used to have a red one. Now I have, I purchased a new one last year because, well, basically a horse stepped on my helmet. I have a total chaos horse, and she's the one who she does such things like stepping on my helmet. And it was anyway time. Mine was I'm sure it was more than 7, 8 years old. So probably she did a good thing. She stepped on it and told me, okay, now it's time, buy a new one.
Time for
So
a new one.
I bought the new model of this in white color because I ride a lot under the sun. So I really don't want to wear a black helmet anymore. And that's one of the things I really treasure about the new helmets, is that you can get them in all colors. So in Germany, I have the LAS in blue, and in India, I have the LAS helmet in white. And I think it's the same model. It fits me very well. As I said, it has plenty of ventilation. For me, that is the most important thing. It's really comfy. It has a good, I can adjust it well. I like the inside. I like the feel of it. It has a bit of a shiny top. So it doesn't get, it doesn't get really dusty or anything. It's once in a while, I wipe it down, or I could wipe it down with a wet cloth in case it bothers me. It doesn't bother me really. Um, and it's, even though it's white, it's still very nice. I've been having it almost a year now. I bought it last year for around about Christmas. So it's great. I really love it. And I probably always would go for the LIS again because I know it fits me well. So I order it online, because here in India, I cannot really buy proper helmets. The only helmets you get here are these old fashioned ones with a chin strap. These ones. First we had these elastic straps, and then you had the ones with the chin cap.
Mm-hmm.
So they were around your chin, and it was always so sweaty with that because it was plastic. So I still remember these ones. I think I still have my very, very old one lying somewhere at home. Yeah, that was really another era. I'm glad that's over now, because the new ones are just so much more comfy. But yeah, I don't mind. It's just because that fits me well that I really went for this company. That LAS one is really great, but I like the UVEX ones. They have a nice look at them as well, and I like the way they close, and they're comfy as well. There's so many good companies, really. It might be also depends a little bit where you are, what kind of company you get locally. So, but I would always advise you to try them out, try which fits best, which really fits you well, which really feels good. And try, if you buy a new one, try wearing it for really 10 minutes inside the shop, or even longer if you can, because only then it shows you whether you get like some problems, that it kind of gives you some sort of headache or hurts at some point of your head. So it's always good to wear them for a little while and then decide on which one you want to buy.
Great advice, because really when you go to the the horse shop, plan that, go first, put the helmet on it, try, and then when you tootle around doing shopping, because we all do that, we're all guilty of, oh well, since we're here, we might as well look at all these things. You can get a good feel for it. Same with riding boots. That's a good one, is, try them on, walk around in the store shopping, and to see how they feel. I was, when you were mentioning about riding an element, so years ago, I was in Ireland, and rain poncho that I have from where Ireland is a fantastic rain poncho. We'll have to have a whole episode on rain gear, but just the way the hood was, when I initially got it, I had my helmet on and I was able to put the top of it, and I thought, oh, well, this is perfect. Well, then the first or second day we were out riding, it spit a little bit, but then it got a little bit windy. Well, my hood kept falling down. So, but the material was quite able to actually put my hood up and then put my top. Well, then it was perfect, right? Because the back of my neck was covered. I could pull the hood over the, towards the front of my face. So I was like, the wind wasn't getting me, and it's really, it's a great raincoat. So Rain will have to have a whole discussion. But I just went on one of the tack kind of companies, just to kind of get it of, you've got Troxel brand, Troxel, Charles Owen are kind of three of the big brands. And I did look at pricing. Anywhere basic introductory kind of beginner helmet. Right now, with it being International Helmet Awareness Month, $49 Canadian. So that's probably like $30 US, 30 euro. So it, you know, that's a really great, now right up to the high end the top, you know, the really the, you know, the endurance, rigorous competitive was $360 Canadian. So, you know, 50 US kind of thing. So they're, you know, if you are a beginner rider, you know, for you know, $30 to $50, you can get yourself a helmet that's going to give you some solid protection. Like, you know, I can't reiterate enough, to these big companies or tack companies have, you know, end of season sales where you can get great deals. So out.
Yeah.
Now, we try to share as much as possible on our Facebook. If you have questions, please submit them there. You know, we love hosting our question and answer episode. Get great questions that come in. If you happen to have asked and not sure if we've answered it or not, we will, you know, shoot us an email, a Facebook post, but we will, if you ask a specific question, we will tag you when we host that episode on the Facebook page. So, you know, if Uta asked a question about rain gear, when we have the rain gear episode, I would have said, hey, Uta, here's the episode that you were asking about on rain gear. So you know, you'll get tagged in that. So it's that we answered your question. Now, did you have anything else, Uta?
Maybe just for a minute talk about accessoires, because nowadays a lot of helmet companies offer accessoires to the helmet. So that might be for winter riders. There is like this warm ears, which you can kind of tie in the straps, you know, to warm your ears, to make sure that your ears are well protected of cold and wind. I find these quite interesting. I mean, in India, I definitely don't need them. But for Germany, this is a very, and I guess for Canada too, this is a very valuable accessoire. What I love riding is an extra brim. So there are several companies who are making special brims for your helmets. One of the company I'm using one made of the company called Da Brim. So that's kind of a big brim which you can put on your helmet. There's a certain way of putting it on. Usually it's pretty much the same way. You kind of stuck it on your visor, on that, you know, on the thing, and you usually attach it on the sides, and then there's a strap where you can kind of pull it so that it will stay in place. So they're pretty nice if you're riding in a very sunny and hot condition. So they usually shield you much better from the sun, particularly if you want your neck a little bit screened, and your ears, you know, and part of, you know, mostly your décolleté and a little bit your back perhaps. So I find them very, very, very good while riding here in India or under any sunny condition. Word of warning though, if there's heavy winds, you might need to hold tight to them sometimes. What else? I also have like a rain cap for my helmet, which I'm not quite sure which company makes them, but if you Google them, I'm sure you find some. So it's basically like a big cap I put on top in case of rainy conditions. So it's like it's a waterproof cover, which has also a bit of a brim so that the water kind of doesn't run onto my shoulders, but it runs off a little bit on the sides. So that's pretty useful, again, in rainy conditions. So yeah, sometimes it's quite interesting to see what all kinds of little accessoires come with helmets nowadays. So I don't know, do you use any accessoires on your helmet?
Well, I've never even heard of that before. I was trying to quickly Google it to see, because Uta, now you're just about ready. You are. I'm just getting ready. I guess I need family, and you'll be heading off to bed soon. We will thank everyone for listening today. Don't forget to topics for show ideas. We love getting the. I'm going to say good night, Uta, and everyone.